4 of season 3. No, I am not taking a selfie. Enrique might be. I'm reading a question. This is from Michael Rainieri. So his question is a real good one. I'm just kidding, guys. I don't need to read it. So his question is, what happens, how do I attack with a gatame when your opponent is kind of stalling in your guard? So his elbows are somewhat flared out, as you can see, but he's kind of crossing his arms, keeping his structure firm. So when this happens, you have to change. If the guy is not giving you what you're looking for, you have to change. They're giving you something else. It's up to you to figure out, how, and usually that's driven by experience, what is he giving you. So as you know, I'd like to interplay the split guard where, you know, I can attack either, you know, short arm bar, triangle, omoplata, or inverted arm bar, or, you know, when a gatame is part of that split guard series, or perpendicular guard. So if the guy is kind of, his posture is broken, theoretically his elbows are flared out. But if I try to actually swim in and break that grip, even though it's 2-on-1, it's not easy. It may not be quite possible. So when that happens, so I'm going to show you the gi version and no gi version. They're not that big difference, but if I have the gi, I will grab the gi, and I'm going to start to pick. And now I'm looking for a perpendicular guard. Now I will close it. If I have a chance, I will always triangle, even though both his arms are in. This is done. Okay, so anytime, if I go into perpendicular guard, if I can make a triangle, I will make a diamond. But if I can triangle him, that's a done deal. All right, no-gi, I would do basically the same, but instead of holding on to the collar, you can always switch the grip. Very easy, just turn your hand. So again, so right now I'm just keeping him where he is. If he tries to posture up, this grip will stop it. So I invert my hand. Literally, this movement will make his posture much, much more difficult. So again, he's locked up, he's holding, so now I'm gonna grab my shin. Again, I know I can close it. But even if I couldn't, I'm just gonna cross my ankles, squeeze my knees, and this is done. Now, why are you looking at me like that? So, again, if I will try to kind of open him up a little bit with my hip movement, you know, see if something opens up, you know, threaten possibly a hip heist. Now I have sort of the entry that I was looking for. So sometimes you moving your hips up and down will make him believe that you're going for a move. And when that happens, they will usually change their position. If they don't, you go with what we just went before. If they do, you have what you were looking for in the first place. So let's look at it from a different angle. So again, he's shutting down, not trying to do anything. You know, with the gi, sometimes you can threaten that choke, but it's not easy because he's protecting his neck. So what I'm going to do is I usually will move my hips up and down just to see if I can get a reaction. And now I can go attack. But if you don't get the reaction, and now this is done. Tap. If I can close triangle, guys, anytime you could do this with both arms in, this is particularly brutal. Very difficult to escape. Squeeze the triangle, but most this is pure brutality in itself.
And lots of peers asking, what is giving you the power for the pivot? Is it the hand under the leg?
Yes. Yes. So guys, it's that movement is kind of almost founded. Oh, by the way, Mike is back, guys. I don't know if you could hear.
Yeah, I'm back in the mix, guys.
Survived.
So,
I made it. Still breathing.
So yes, the foundation of that pivot is sort of like a flower sweep. So when the guy's in my guard, again, with the gi, I will grab the gi. No gi, I would just kind of keep my hand behind his head. I'm looking to sweep. This is what I'm looking for. Almost always, rarely will you get that. Believe it or not, actually that's the best thing he could do for you is actually fold over. Well, for himself, not for you. Because otherwise, if he stays where he is, he gets into more trouble. So that's kind of the foundation of that movement. So I'll lift my hips, weave my right arm under his leg, and then I just pivot. And now I will either make a diamond, or if I can, I will make a triangle. The triangle, this is not super choking, but it's mangling, very, very high degree of control. They can't tap fast enough. So let's look at it from another angle. So, yeah, that's one of the most important things that people miss. And this is actually very similar to triangles. I yell at my guys all the time. So, as you know, I just finished, guys, by the way, yeah. I just finished a triangle video for BJJ Fanatics. It's gonna have triangles pretty much from every position, and not just regular triangles that most of us know, but reverse, inverted, and what I call the ugly, which are very underutilized. But this drives me crazy. So when I triangle somebody, just regular triangle, right? And I'm trying to get a good angle. I'm trying to pivot to my right to get a better angle. So usually what I'll do is I'll hold my shin. If he's on his knees, I'm gonna weave under his arm, and that's what's gonna give me that pivot, okay? Same thing with if he was standing, I would go under his leg, and again, get that pivot. It's the same thing, it's the same pivot that I'm using from the move before, where I'm going under his leg to pivot to get into a perpendicular guard. It's the same movement. What drives me crazy when people triangle somebody, you guys know who you are, and they're looking for that pivot this way. Enrique, you go to town. When you feel like you can escape, you escape. Right? What happened? I'll tell you what happened. We do it one more time. When you feel, I'm going to do a couple more times. When you feel that you can escape, you escape. You got to stop smoking.
I can't.
So do you guys see what the difference was? And you guys know who you are. Hand on your shin and pivot with that right in this position. Right arm under his arm or his leg. Same thing to get to a perpendicular guard. That hand, the left hand, has a much more important job, is to hold on to your shin, not to put it on the floor and try to push yourself off like you got broken legs.
And Alal followed up with 2 questions. He said he's having a tough time turning when the opponent sticks his chest to his.
Oh yeah, but that's a different position now. Yeah. So yeah, you're not going to pivot here. So your legs are quite strong actually. So what you can do is push your hips up and bounce. So it's not going to be this gentle. Normally what I'm looking to do is just bounce him off and attack with a katana immediately. If you can, because sometimes some of these guys have a very strong drive, you can kind of help push a little bit. What I'm looking to do is, when that happens, I'm looking to get, yeah, and now you may have engagement, whatever way you're looking to get engaged, you have openings. All right, so you have to figure out what is keeping you down in that position. Again, split guard and perpendicular guard are, to me, those are my 2 favorite guards. I will play back and forth between one and the other if I can. If I can't, you have to use other forms of guard, other ways to open them up. You can't apply those two solutions to every possible sort of scenario that your opponent gives you from your guard. All right, so let's look at that again. Let's pick a good angle while I'm tying my belt. So, this time, again, Enrique's driving, and most often the guys, if their legs are wide, really wide, you have some room to move, okay? So what they do is they kind of bring their thighs in to control your hip movement from side to side. If that happens, notice that I like to employ sort of, I want to be able to push him away, but I'm not too far. So I don't want him, if I push him away, I don't want to just kind of like push him out, let him posture up and start passing my guard. So I want to make sure that I keep him, so if I start to push, and I can bring him back in. With Nogi, it would be this. It would be my hand on the back of their skull. All right? So when I feel him driving, kind of blocking my hips, what I'll try to do is drop my hips and push him away. If I can do this, I'm looking to put at least one of my feet on the hips. Once I have that, I can go into an offensive mode. Tap that. Okay? If you can't, if you have the guy just drive and you feel like, oh yeah, this is like a rock. Especially if he has two underhooks. What I'm gonna do is threaten an Ezekiel. Oh, hold on one second. Nogi version would be, instead of going in your sleeve, just grabbing your wrist. Now, he will move. He will move. He will, again, there's a huge value in knowing how he can counter your attacks. So when you attack an Ezekiel, if you place your hand, the choking hand, the one on karate, anywhere near the carotid and he starts to feel threatened, for sure he will swim his hand in. If he doesn't, he will eventually tap. But if anybody's going to counter it, they're going to swim their arm through that hole. So now you know how he's going to move, and now you can attack exactly from that position.
And his last question was, do you have a follow-up if the opponent manages to get his posture when you pivot?
Yeah. Hip heist is one of the best things you can do if the guy postures up. Hip heist is, again, if you have a guy, so in this case, we have a guy that's kind of pushing down on us, his posture is broken, but he's not really giving us anything. Or, by now you should know he is. You just need to figure out which part to tap into. But, if the guy's posturing up, whether it's just postured up quickly, or, sometimes you have a guy in your guard, again, stalling, but again, just keeping a good posture. Hip heist, and guys, we've done an episode on hip heist. It's got to be somewhere. Guys, by the way, there's a Google Docs index that Adolfo Ferranda keeps updating that has links by technique. Thank you, Adolfo. By technique to what I call, this is season 3, this is weekly now. What I would consider season 2 was the daily one, which we did 99 episodes. Then you got season 1, which was the original monthly series. And also links to other videos that I may have done with Firaz Zahabi. So you have a lot of resources here. So if you're looking for a hip heist, troubleshooting, go to the Google Docs link. It's on episode 50 of the antivirus edition.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you need, guys, please don't flood my inbox. I've sent it to people, but please try to find it on your own before you start asking me where is it.
But I thought you wanted people to ask you questions.
I do. Here, ask me here. So let's look at that again. All right, so as he's not doing anything, so I'll lift my hips, I start to pivot. Sometimes that will not work, so make it not work. So, again, he's stalling, he's strong, I start to pivot. That's enough. All I need is a little bit of movement. I need him to engage. Once he engages, if you attack, if the person has good defenses, you know, initially they don't give you anything. So I'm not looking for him to go from here to choking in a triangle. I'm looking to make steps in between that initially have him expose his posture, suddenly his arm, and now you got things going on. Okay, so again, this is very, very important, especially for you guys that have not been training so long, is sometimes you don't have enough tools in your toolbox to figure out how to string things together. So when you train, it's very important for you to sort of start to look for patterns. So, you know, initially, maybe if you're a white belt that's been training 6 to 9 months, you sort of start to see, okay, if I escape this way, and that's a successful escape for you, what is sort of logical attack that you can start to attack with immediately after your escape? If you're a little more advanced, blue belt is, you know, when I threaten the guy with this, I don't quite get him, but this is how he responds. He usually posts his hand out here. Well, now you may have a Kimura. So start to look for those patterns and how you take advantage of those patterns.
Everybody's remembering the hip heist episode as the look at your hand episode.
Yes, yes. Hold your shin, triangles. Look at your hand. Yeah, look at my hand.
And before the next question, we also have some check-ins from Australia, Idaho, Tokyo, Japan, London, Tajikistan.
Yeah, Mike, look at you. You're getting better at geography.
Renzo Gracie Rockland, New York. And the next question is, this is from John. What if they grab their belt or they go hand to hand when you go for that Kimura off of the hip heist?
Oh, okay. Did you stretch?
I did.
Okay.
I stretched my legs.
So let's start from you stretch your legs so you can run. So as I'm, guys, again, don't forget my ass is not on the ground. So before I start the whole sequence, my butt comes off the ground, so I can kind of get loaded. So as I now hip heist, so it's going to be hard for him to grab his belt right now because notice how I'm blocking his path. All right, but let's assume that you see how I'm falling, so his hand is outside. So even if he's holding to his belt, you can adjust your hips, continue to adjust. So keep holding. You know what? I'm gonna let you get a better grip. So you see how my leg is kind of blocking him. So what I'm gonna try to do is let him have a better grip. You don't forget, once his hand is marginal, in order for him, you know, unless you got a super goon, like if you got a guy with arms like this big, he may be able to hold on, but in order to hold on for more than a few seconds, you really need to have your hand in front of your belly, in front of your torso. Once it's out here, that's a very marginal grip. And that it's not just, you're not trying to rip the hand out, you start to manage the elbow. So when you start to manage the elbow, you could try this on your friends, or you could try it on yourself. So you have a good grip right here, right? But so I can't move your hand, you can't move your opponent's hand, but you can start to move their elbow. That hand, it starts to get compromised, it starts to hurt. That's when the hand comes out. All right, so you gotta make sure, if anytime you're defending a Kimura, you wanna make sure you put it in front of your thigh or in front of your torso. Once it's out here, unless you're super strong, which, yeah, it's a good possibility, then it's gonna be very difficult for you to hold on. And the way hip heist is done, it's, you know, again, don't forget, when you're going for a Kimura trap from your guard, a guy passing your guard, this is different, right? Because you can use his body. When I'm going for Kimura off a hip heist, my leg kind of blocks him to be able to reconnect his hand to somewhere where it's going to keep him safe for a while. So his safety is not very good right now. So what I'm going to try to do is try to move my hips in a way, and now I start to not just manage the hand, but manage the elbow. So what I'm trying to do is, go ahead. So start to pull down on his elbow. Tap, tap. It starts to compromise the grip.
And 2 more questions before we close out. We have Jared Kirby. He's saying this question is more MMA specific. What do you think the opponent is more susceptible to as they posture up for strikes from the guard?
Wait, what's the question?
If I posture up to punch you, what am I susceptible?
More susceptible to.
You got to break his posture. Anytime in MMA, anytime if MMA, I need to go either perpendicular or just away from him. You got to move. You cannot let somebody do this. Yeah. So anytime in MMA, I'm going to try to go perpendicular and see if I can tap. I just got to move. You got to do one of several things. You got to either move out, or if you move perpendicular. But again, when you move perpendicular, so I move perpendicular. This is temporary. This doesn't buy me a whole lot of time. So I have to be prepared to continue to move. So if you go perpendicular, for a brief second, you interrupt his ability to strike you, but that's very, very short-lived. So I just pivot to the other side. Oh. Now the shoe's on the other foot. So again, in MMA, my guys know when they fight, if they wind up on the bottom, one of the first things we drill is no damage, no damage. So you got to be, especially, the perpendicular guard is quite good in a sense that it forces you to move. You just can't stay to one side because your opponent on top can realign. But again, understand that as he's realigning, that buys you opportunity to do something else. You cannot just realign and say, okay, I'm safe. No, you're not. It just buys you a little bit of time to do something else.
And the last question is from Masij. He's asking how to deal with the person pressuring and stalling from top when you're on bottom and closed guard.
We just did it. Depends what positioning they have. Do they have good posture? Do they have, kind of keeping you down posture? Again, it depends heavily on what postures they're giving you. If they're, we just the first, 15 minutes we were going on that over that. This is, so if you missed the beginning, this is one way to stall. Another way to stall is like this, okay? And third way to stall is to go back down, but hit, arms, yeah. So we just went over that pretty much step by step. So again, if he's stalling right here, I'm going to perpendicular guard, okay? If he's stalling like this, I'm doing hip heist. And if he's stalling with hands on my hips, I start to attack Ezekiel, and then I'm looking, even if I don't get it, I'm looking to attack other parts.
And right before we close out, MMA Tracker is asking, does the Triangles DVD cover triangle defense as well?
Not so much. And the reason for that is because number one is, people are very good at defending triangles, especially the straight ones. Usually the number one defense is posture. And I think most schools teach triangles and triangle defenses. So this presumes that the person that buys this has some knowledge of triangles, but they're not working for them the way they should be, that they're not very effective. Again, if you look at, the technique spectrum of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, triangles are sort of the quintessential submission that pretty much everybody knows, just not well maybe, within a couple months of training. And they usually know the defense, and, especially the bigger guys, it's pretty easy to defend. And one of two things, they either twist to the side or posture up. So it does kind of cover more like this is what you can expect and how you can shut it down. But the way I do triangles, and especially the regular ones, you can't twist out. You just saw it earlier in this episode. You can't twist out. It's not going to happen for the other guy. So the only possibility he has is to gain posture. And again, if that posture, I don't give him posture, which I don't, it doesn't work. So again, it doesn't cover so much defenses as much as offense, and sort of counters to the most common triangle defenses. But the way I do my regular triangle, once I lock it up, I have an extremely, extremely high success rate against very high level guys. And the reason again for that is the way I do it is I don't give him posture, I don't give him the ability to twist out.
They're saying that they're looking forward to it. Can't wait for it to come out.
Nice. And just like that, we're done, guys. We'll see you next Friday, April 30th. Yeah. For episode 5 of season 3. Subscribe, like, share, and you know the drill,
tell
guys.
Tell your friends, training partners, tell your instructors too.
We'll see you next time, guys.